Hallo, assalamu alaikum. Good morning, khush aamdeed. Ji aaya nu. Goedemorgen.
Bakhair Agale, Ni Hao, Tunashume, Washmale, Ohio, Gizaimis, Guten Morgen, Hola, Boyor, Privyet, Kaifahal, Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabia, Balikare, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You watch it World this morning alongside the very fantastic, the very amazing Shazad Hasan Khan and Shiza Hashmi. Hello, Shiza, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. And I think I feel, well, way too better now because I've rejoined work after such a long time.
Was it
So,
long?
I mean, for me, it was long. It was, I think, 10-ish days that I was
It
off.
was
But
even
thank you
long
so
for
much
us
for,
as well, but no
but thank you
problem.
so much for, I mean, of course, taking the ship forward in such a brilliant way.
Yes.
So, fill me in. What was happening?
All right,
Well, in the
so
Twin Cities, first of all, and then on the show.
exactly within the Twin Cities, it's getting colder day by day as well. And every morning, whenever I'm waking up, I just feel like crying because it's just so
Oh.
cold. And since we're not allowed to put gas heaters in our room, our father does not allow because it's very risky. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are out there, yeah, please listen to this carefully because you're not supposed to put the gas heaters in your rooms, and then because
Absolutely.
God forbid, the oxygen levels are going to drop, and when you're going to fall asleep, you will never realize, and then God forbid, you can pass out as well. So we really do
Absolutely.
not want that for people as well. So early in the morning when I get up, I have like 2, 3 jackets right next to my bed. So I wear them in the first place, sleepers, socks, and then go get the gas heater, bring it into my room, turn it on, then warm it up a little bit, and then obviously my day starts. So
So,
that's
when do you wake up then? I mean,
so
doesn't it
I so
take
I wake
long?
up somewhat around 6:30
Oh,
because it's
that's
going to take
nice.
a
That's
little
nice.
time to get out of my blanket and then acclimatize and all of that thing,
Got it.
all of those things as well. But other than that, yeah. So there was in Islamabad, Islamabad has opened doors to a drive-in cinema as well.
Oh,
Over
yes,
the
it was
weekends you can
amazing.
go watch movies in F9 Park, ladies and gentlemen, and the price is as low as 1,000 rupees. There's this
Nice.
application of a telecom network. If you're going to buy a ticket from Book It Now application and pay from that application, it's only going to cost you 500 rupees, and that too per
Amazing.
car. And as many people you can fit in your car, they will allow you to go and watch the film as well, which I think is super because I still can go back in time and think when we were 7 brothers and sisters and we had a Suzuki Mehran.
Oh,
And so my mother, my father, and all of us, brothers and sisters, used to fit in one car as well. I
yeah.
think it would be fun, but yeah, I don't know whether you'll be able, all of the siblings will be able to watch the film or not. That's a different story.
Right. So, first of all, I think this is a brilliant, brilliant initiative because Shazad, you and I have been talking about this for so long.
Yep.
How whenever you think about, recreation with your family, the only option you have is food places.
Yes.
And I think this is a very nice initiative. I missed it. I really want to be there for the next one. But do explain to me. Now, this is going to be a naive question, but do explain. I don't know
Yeah.
how. Because there's no level, it's a flat land
Yeah.
where all the cars
Yep.
are well together. So is there like sort of a hindrance if a smaller car is right behind a bigger one, or do they arrange it in a way where everyone can access the screen?
Yeah, in fact, they've arranged it in a way, ladies and gentlemen, that everybody can actually take a good look at the screen as well. The screen is bigger than you would actually get in the cinema as well.
Oh.
The best part is that it was actually inaugurated by the Minister of Interior, Mr. Sheikh Rashid Saab, and he was very happy that that Islamabad has actually opened doors to a drive-in cinema. And then when I was in conversation with a lot of other people,
Yeah.
they were telling me that there used to be one in Karachi,
Okay.
and back in the days, probably 1980s or 1990s, but now it does not exist anymore. So the only drive-in cinema we have in Pakistan is in Islamabad, and it's all because of the fact because it's COVID times.
Oh, yeah.
People really do not want to go into the cinema halls as well because of the SOPs. And the best part, you can even order food online as well, and they will get it
Wow.
delivered to your car. So
Oh.
it's everything is contactless. You really do not have to be in anybody's face, and yeah, just enjoy the film. That's
Absolutely love
that's
this
number two.
idea.
Number three is that it's going to get colder and colder, and it's been getting colder and colder as well, which due to which we are actually over here in Islamabad. We're very lucky that we get fog, but over there where people are in Lahore and Punjab and elsewhere where they're densely populated cities, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen, it's smog. And smoke, ladies and gentlemen, is really not good for health. What's the difference? This is something which we have picked up on today.
Absolutely, and I think this is very important, Shazad, because just like you were talking, because of the COVID-19 going on, we have to sort of adapt to newer ways. I'm sorry, my earpiece is a little tight. But here's the thing, it's not only COVID-19, the pandemic that is sort of engulfed us. Climate change is one of the things we at this point cannot ignore. I mean, the Earth is at a tip-off right now, and there's no going back. I mean, there are no reversible ways that we can probably restore good things for the planet. And smog, like you mentioned, happens to be one of the worst things that has engulfed Pakistan. So, you know, earlier, like probably even 2 years before, the news would read that a blanket of smog has taken over Lahore. But now it's not a blanket anymore. They call it a death trap. Can you believe that? It's because while, yes, it does cause a lot of direct deaths on an annual basis, it has a lot of indirect and long-term effects as well.
Exactly.
You know, Pakistan Air Quality Initiative actually gave out stats, and they said that 59,300 people, roughly speaking, now these are the reported ones, annually die because of air pollution. And smog, well, mainly smog is definitely air pollution, right? So where is it coming from? I mean, there are definitely some myths, you know, of how probably industries would, or burning crop, because this is one of a very largely practiced thing in Pakistan. We are an agrarian society. Burning crops would cause smog. But wouldn't that mean it should cause smog in villages or areas where actually crops are burned? So I'm pretty sure there are so many other factors to it that we are probably neglecting, or we are not able to see clearly. We will be exploring them
And
today.
we definitely need to talk about it. But ladies and gentlemen, since I said that, you know, wherever there's dense population, we've witnessed that there's smog as well.
Yeah.
And I think that we are the ones who needs to be blamed for this, because we are the ones who've been contributing to that. It's not just the industry, it's the vehicles we drive, it's the appliances we use. And there's so many other things which are related to it. But God forbid, ladies and gentlemen, the point why we have taken this initiative to talk about this on our program today is that since it's COVID-19, and COVID-19 is actually giving a lot of hindrances to people in breathing anyways.
Yes,
So really we do not want another characteristic of air pollution adding on to that as well, and God forbid losing more lives. So I think that we really need to talk about this.
Absolutely.
How can we reduce it? What are the impacts of it on health? And yeah, I think as far as fog is concerned, fog is fine. But we really need to be careful what time we're choosing to drive to another place. I think that we really need to be careful to check the weather forecast, because God forbid, ladies and gentlemen, just a few days ago there was this video which was viral on the internet as well. It was a motorway exchange, and the cars just kept on hitting each other. So we really do not want the loss of life, and we really do not want the loss of property or cars for that matter.
Yes, and here's something shocking, Shazad. While, you know, like you mentioned, that we are definitely causing a lot to smog and air pollution, yes, one would think that industrialized areas like probably the West, or even Europe for that matter, they would have a lot of smog. Well, they do, but Pakistan happens to have more, 10 to 20 times more than Europe itself. Now, here's a small, actually, visuals of, this is, I think, smog.
Yeah,
but it also looks like fog, because severe smog does actually cause a lot of, you know, visual hindrance as well.
Exactly.
You cannot actually, it cannot be safe for you to go out and drive in smog. But this is safe fog, though. Sort of an indication of a winter coming up as well. A longer wait in this.
I mean, we can say it because we are actually watching this footage on our television
TV,
screens.
yes.
But for people who were in the cars, you know, we really need to ask them, because it's a very different angle from here as well.
Absolutely.
But ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time that we start our conversation. And we have very apt guest. I think he's the perfect person to talk to about fog and smog, what are the differences, the health impacts of it as well. So ladies and gentlemen, he happens to be an environmentalist. He is Dr. Ejaz Ahmed. Hello, assalamu alaikum, sir. Good morning.
Ji, assalamu alaikum. Good morning to the viewers. Thank you for having me, and this is a very important subject. I think we need to discuss it more often.
So sir, thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful to have you. But I think my first question would be, how do we differentiate in between smog and fog, and which one's safer and which one's not?
Well, actually, fog is much safer, and when you add smoke in fog, so it becomes smog. And fog is, I mean, like, it's a very regular, normal phenomena which used to happen since many years. And only those areas, especially in Pakistan, which were close to some canals, they were affected with the fog. And it's mainly suspended particles, condensed vapors. But when like smoke also added in this fog, then it becomes smog, which is more dangerous, which contains a lot of pollutants in the form of like carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide.
And lead and sulfur for that matter, because lead and sulfur happens to be dangerous. But when we talk about smoke, what kind of smoke does it entail? Is it only industrial, or is it the traffic?
Yeah. I mean, like basically industry, industrial pollutants, which becomes part of the air. Then the vehicular emission, number of vehicles have increased over the last few years, and and there is very little actually management of this smoke. We do now have this Euro 5 standards, which will ultimately reduce the overall impact. But then number of vehicles are tremendous, and they are increasing and increasing and increasing. And in addition, this phenomena of paddy crop burning, that is actually like adding into this, especially during the winter season, because the paddy crop is harvested in October, November.
Yes.
And the stubbles remain. There are different varieties of this paddy crop, so it's all integrated actually. So people just cut the top part of the crop, and the stubble remains over there, and in order to get rid of these stubbles, they burn.
Yeah.
So when a massive and huge area is burned, the smoke comes out, and that smoke becomes part of the whole environment. And ultimately during the evening and night time, when the condensation when the temperature decreases, they actually like come down.
Exactly.
And then I mean, like we're talking about this phenomena mainly happening in Punjab, some part of Sindh as well. It's basically, I mean, like it's locked, or like the transfer air movement is not that high as compared to when you go to Karachi or other areas where wind actually has a dispersal phenomena. So the wind is not that high. The level of wind is not, speed of the wind is not that high. So ultimately it remains in pockets where they don't move, and then that becomes
just there.
So if you inhale something, so it's basically full of pollutants, and all different type, industrial pollutants, vehicular emission, and burning of crop. So all these, they come together, and then ultimately like
Right, and that does make sense. And where you said that actually the amount of vehicles in Pakistan, or everywhere actually, has increased, but that is also, Shahzad, I feel like sort of a need of the time as well. Just in the beginning of the show where you said that a family of 7, mashallah, used to have a Miran, but now you all have like probably 2 cars each, mashallah. But the point is, I mean, that is actually adding a lot to the pollution as well. But
there's a
would
reason,
you say,
because each one of us have our own families now.
I get it. But would you say that people who do buy vehicles should have actually the awareness and responsibility to know what kind of fuels to use, and I mean what kind of pollution they can avoid?
I think that you're hitting the nail on the head, but it's not totally dependent on the people, because over here we know that that we have a lot of marginalized segments, and not everybody gets to drive a car as well. So they have their own ways of probably buying a 30-year-old motorbike, or buying a 30-year or 40-year-old car, or probably for that particular reason, if you take a look at the transportation vehicles, not in Islamabad or elsewhere where there's metro bus system as well, but wherever there are no proper means of transportation, we see that it's like 30-year-old wagon which has been used, and the emissions are there. And that's one thing which I wanted to ask Dr. Saab as well, that we do talk about the Euro 5 protocol. Elsewhere, if you go to Europe or anywhere else, they will test each and every car, no matter what happens, and everybody's supposed to have that sticker on their car, whether it's certified or not. But over here, we might say that we have that protocol in place, but there's no check and balance.
Actually, that's what I wanted to actually add. The public transport system, number one, is almost missing. We just have this, like metro and orange train, but I think there is a need to invest in the public transport. I remember during my school days, we used to have this government transport service, omnibus system, and vehicles. The buses were available on time, so I think that is missing. The other part, as far as certification is concerned, in Punjab government started this vehicle inspection and certification system, but it's only limited to public transport. Whereas we need to actually, there are more vehicles in private sector. So and also these three-wheeler, they are big source of pollution, rickshaws, etc. So public transport, I think, is very, very, it's a need of the day in order to, like not only cater general public, but also to look into this smog issue and other environmental issues related to, as you mentioned, 59,000 people die every year, and you cannot, live without air. So you have to, breathe after every, 30 seconds or so.
And even these days, sir, there are so many airborne diseases that we cannot even talk about all of them. And
Exactly.
the doctors cannot even figure out what the cause of the problem is.
Absolutely, I do agree with you. And Asaf, you said public transport. I think Shazad and I, we're on the same page about this, how we mentioned that even in the bigger countries that we refer to and look up to, probably not going to name, not a lot of people have their personal cars over there. Even if they do, they don't use it, and there's no shame in using public transport. Exactly. In my university days, when the metro started in Islamabad, I started using it because I had a lot of projects to do, photography, videos, whatnot. Being very honest, it was not suitable for me, and I could not do it anymore for reasons that probably we're not discussing today. But sir, when we talk about airborne diseases, smog definitely adds a lot to it. Respiratory diseases, bronchitis being one of them. Kindly do let us know about some of the others, and then it does also affect plants and animals, right?
Yeah, of course. There are many diseases. As you mentioned, breathing is one of the issues. Skin rashes. Even there are studies which says, the stress level of stress and tension increases. So it's basically combination of so many different diseases. Ultimately, then that can also result in some of the cardiac issues as well. So it's a combination of so many different diseases that actually, and mostly people living in some slum areas, they are affected more as compared to people living in a better area where there is plantation, where there are other means of getting better air. People go out for jogging, for recreation, for other activities. Whereas in the poor neighborhood, it is very difficult. Not only air but water pollution, which causes more than 300,000 deaths of children every year in Pakistan. It is combination of air pollution, water pollution, and many other such factors which basically leads into the poor health conditions of poor communities.
Got it.
Exactly, and thank you very much, sir, for pinpointing all of these problems and issues which we do face, every time when it's smog or fog as well. But obviously, we're glad that now finally we do have a Ministry of Climate Change as well, and they might be working in the right direction, and they do take such initiatives, which is great. But now let's talk about what needs to be done, because whenever it comes down to law and order, alhamdulillah, we are thankful that the incoming government is actually doing a wonderful job as well.
True.
But to make sure that all of these SOPs are being followed is something very essential, because we might not see it in the longer run, but this might cause another endemic for our people, because we're talking about air pollution.
Absolutely.
So what kind of SOPs do you think needs to be in place for the industry, for the transportation sector, for a person like me, for a normal citizen? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, government has started with this Euro 5, and now EV, electrical vehicles policy is in place, and I think it's a nice initiative which will reduce smoke to air pollution to some extent, although it will take time. But then there are many other areas. For example, in industry, there are national environmental quality standards. Unfortunately, these standards are not met properly. Brick kilns, which are one of the major source of air pollution, they have been actually provided with this zigzag technology, where the smoke actually the level of smoke which emits from these big brick kilns has reduced to a greater extent. Then vehicular emission should be like controlled through this vehicle inspection and quality control, which is already in place. And there are laws, like Pakistan Environmental Protection Act is there, which actually have these national environmental quality standards. So if an industry is emitting some pollutants, so they can be fined, they can be actually closed. Similarly, this burning of stubble. Now there are new technologies which is already available. Happy Cedar is one such like equipment which actually reduces the stubble, and you don't have to burn the stubble. There is a process which recycling and then it becomes beneficial for the next crop. It's kind of like it provides organic matter. There are ways, but I think the important thing is there is a gap between these technologies and the extension, and how these technologies can actually be benefited for the farmers.
And the comprehension of these technologies, to be honest, and how to be integrated in our daily lives. But sir, do you know, I'm sure you know, so ladies and gentlemen, an environmental study shows that babies and infants can actually have brain malfunction with air pollution. And in South Asia, it turned out to have the largest impact because, of course, smog and the kind of air pollution we've been talking about for the entire show. So, sir, when we're looking at Pakistan, the population, we cannot put a stop to that. It keeps increasing. And the amount of children or kids in our society, it's, mashallah, it's a very large percentage. So in this matter, I'm not talking about the government or the institutions, the public proactively, what can they do to probably not stop this entirely, but reduce it at least, right?
Yeah, I think again, the level of pollution which is coming from these resources, like individual can improve the vehicular emission, which is the something we can control, service the vehicle, using the petrol that is more environmental friendly, etc. But I think it has to be at the institution level.
It has to be,
otherwise, like an individual can control the mobility. I can use maybe public transport more often if it is available.
True.
But again, the impact, the burning of crop is very high, industrial pollution, similarly brick kilns. So I think it has to be at some institutional level. Individual can contribute, but it will not be that significant.
Exactly. And not just that, ladies and gentlemen, I think that another risk factor over here is because, Dr. Saab over here mentioned that, once there are these pockets of smoke, what happens is that, if the wind speed is not there, or if the wind, God forbid, is absent, the pocket's going to stay over there. So not that that the people are only actually going to be affected by the quality of air, but in fact there will be no visibility, and God forbid there will be a lot of accidents as well, where there will be loss of life, where there will be loss of property as well. But very quickly, sir, I think I just wanted to talk about that. One last thing, and that is that, don't you think that, okay, we can probably come up with a better idea that whatever areas where there is smoke, we can probably not put wind turbines because they're powered with wind, but at least put up some big fans so that we can actually move away the pockets or break them in the first place, so that at least it's visible for people. And number two, which areas do you think will be more prone to smoke or fog within the coming days?
Well, I think mainly Punjab. There are different factors. For example, as I mentioned earlier, the canal system that we have, water vapors comes out, and the pollutants, they travel. Whenever there is a wind, there are definitely pockets, but whenever there is even any movement, they disperse, and ultimately they become part of the whole smog phenomena. Then there is during this time there is a movement of air from east to west, which actually exacerbates all the whole process, because Indian burning of this paddy also contributes, and there are studies which shows that during this season wind direction actually change. It comes from India to Indian Punjab to Pakistani Punjab, and ultimately that also adds into the smoke that we have, our own smell. So there is also a huge burning of paddy this season. We used to have, like all these things, but this additional burning of there is a change in the crop size of the crop and the harvesting technology, which was not happening before. People used to cut manually. Now it is mechanized. So the stubble still remained there. So there has to be some research in order to reduce that phenomena. Otherwise, like
it's going to persist.
It is going to persist.
Well, we really hope so not, and which is why you were here. Thank you so much, sir, for being
Thank
so
you.
informative
Thank
and
you.
insightful, especially early in the morning, because that is when Shahzad and my brain works the fastest as well. But when we talk about smog, this is not only the respiratory issues or visibility issues that we're talking about, because of the increasing winter and the severity of how the winter is going to be changing in the coming weeks or the months as well. Dry mouth happens to be one of actually the major issues a lot of people are facing. Does it have something to do with the dental? Does it have something to do with ENT? Or, well, smog itself, does it cause that? This is something we need to talk about.
Exactly.
So maybe after a very short break, we should have a dentist over here.
Yeah, so we're not only concerned about your lungs, ladies and gentlemen, we are actually even concerned about your teeth, because smile, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be the best curve on a human body. We will be talking about that. We're going for a short break, but thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for taking out time and joining us and talking about this very important issue as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Good morning.
Good morning.
Passion for polo will be the highest on the world's highest polo ground. Shandur invites visitors to experience a traditional polo tournament between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The tournament is held on Shandur Pass, the highest polo ground in the world, at 3,700 meters above sea level. The first time a polo tournament took place on the Shandur Pass was in 1936. It is a place unique and exotic in itself, surrounded by some of the most spectacular mountain scenery in the world. The event
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For everybody who just got tuned into PTV World, you watching World this morning alongside the very dapper Shahzad Khan and the very pretty Shiza Hashmi. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier in the first half of the show, we were talking about how in the coming days we will be experiencing smog and fog as well. Fog, a natural phenomenon, does not really matter wherever or whichever part of the world it is. You know, it's not really going to affect your health. But smog, ladies and gentlemen, is the first two initials of smoke and then the last two letters of fog. When they get connected, it's smog and it's air pollution, and it's going to cause a lot of airborne diseases as well. And we really wanted people to be healthy, so which is why we were talking about that. But now, Shiza actually had a very important thing to discuss.
Well, yes, absolutely. So here's the thing, I think we did sort of link it to as well, that smog is not just something that will be hazardous for your, respiration. Of course, there are so many other things that are related to it, like one of them being dry mouth, which will eventually lead to dental issues. But actually, while we do dig into that, Shahzad, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go on.
I know I didn't warn you about this, but how often do you go see your dentist?
I think probably every 6 months.
You do?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Alhamdulillah, because earlier I wasn't really in a habit of going and visiting my dentist because, you know, dental practice over here in Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, is very expensive.
It's not a priority.
But now, alhamdulillah, since I can afford it, so I take my family almost every 6 months and, you know, we go over there and we get ourselves checked up. And I think it is important, rather than sitting on a problem and God forbid when, you know, it reaches a point where you really cannot find a solution for it and spending millions or probably hundreds of thousands of rupees on that, I think a stitch in time saves nine. This is the best policy.
And while we do not also have, very important practice of flossing over here in Pakistan, so what we are going to do today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring a dentist to you. So if you have any queries during this show, keep writing to us. We'll ask your questions as well. Meanwhile, we're going to throw some basic questions at her. She happens to be one of our very favorites. She happens to be, well, very updated about what she does as well. Dr. Madhya Shahzad, once again, hello, assalamu alaikum, welcome back.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you. And,
Thank
you know,
you.
so the
Thank
first
you for
question
inviting.
is going to be, because we were talking about air pollution and we keep on breathing that air. So it goes in, it comes out. I'm very sorry. But a lot of people have this habit of breathing from their mouth as well. So, you know, obviously, first of all, due to that bad air, it's going to get our mouths dry. Then, you know, we're going to have bad breath, and then there are going to be multiple issues related to that as well. Is it because of the air we are breathing in?
Yes.
Or is it just, you know, something wrong with my stomach or something else?
There are so many
Good
things
question.
that can cause dry mouth and bad breath, and dry mouth is the main cause of bad breath. So yes, this is one of the reasons that you have just mentioned, that breathing bad air inside can cause dry mouth, but basically dry mouth has a particular link with saliva in our mouth. Whenever there is something that is reducing saliva in our mouth, it will cause dry mouth. So what is saliva? Saliva is one of the biggest blessing of Allah that Allah has given us, said that it cancels out the effects of acids in our mouth, it flushes our mouth from inside, and it is a cleansing agent, a natural cleansing agent in our mouth. So whenever we are taking any kind of medication that is reducing saliva, or we have any kind of underlying medical condition, or we are breathing through mouth, as Shahzad has mentioned, then These things can cause our mouth to dry, and the dryness can lead to many other problems in the mouth, like bad breath and other issues like gum diseases, tooth decay, etc. Yeah.
Dr. Madhya, you know what, since, well, there is a segment of people who do not really like wearing masks lately. I do not endorse you guys or your mentality for that matter. But some of them actually, they do come up with reasons saying that they have difficulty breathing or dry mouth and whatnot. So for people, because it is absolutely mandatory right now to be wearing masks, how can we be sure to not have probably dry mouth or any similar issues while doing that?
No, I don't think so that wearing a mask can cause a dry mouth. We have to make a habit of wearing it because it's a new way of life. We can't escape it. We don't know that how long we are going to wear masks. So we have to keep it in our daily lives to wear mask all the time, use sanitizers, use gloves, and washing your hands regularly. It's very important. So coming back to dry mouth has a direct link with saliva. So I can tell you what causes the dry mouth. It is actually the medical conditions, especially diabetes, smoking, and lung diseases, liver diseases, and some people who are taking medications for high blood pressure and heart diseases. And if you have any kind of salivary gland problems, old age also causes dry mouth. So there are so many, breathing through mouth instead of nose. If you have bronchitis or sinusitis, then again it can lead to dry mouth and it can lead to bad breath eventually. So these are the things that are
exactly. And you know, I just want to add on to this as well, because since we are talking about bad breath and dry mouths as well, can dehydration lead you towards having you know, dry mouth as well? Because you know, since it's winters, we're not having a lot of water as well. So can that be one cause?
Yes, this can be one cause. And I think Shahzad knows a lot about it, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a reason, because
I'm impressed.
You know, you really do not want a person right next to you with a bad breath. God forbid, it can be you as well. So which is why, you know, this is the most important question, that it is always very hard for the same person to realize that he or she has actually got bad breath. How do you think one can actually check their own breath, whether it's bad or not?
Yes, it is very important, and it is very
I know
difficult,
how to do it, but I cannot
you know?
say it on television. I want it from the expert's mouth. Please go
First
ahead.
of all, we should be able to realize those signals, you know, where if people are stepping away from us. So obviously it's
or offering you gum, or offering you gum.
or offering you a gum or a mint or something like that, okay? Because I remember once I offered one of my friend a toothpaste, which is specifically for this bad breath. So she might got that signal from me.
I hope
and
so.
also the way that you can check is just lick your inside of your wrist and then sniff it. And if you feel that it is smelling bad, then definitely you are having dry mouth dry mouth and bad breath. And then you should visit your dentist so that he can check your mouth that what's the problem inside.
Exactly, and this was the same you know technique which a friend shared with me, because I was like, hey, you know what? No, if you're going to blow air into your hand and just try sniffing it once again, you know, you cannot feel anything. So he was like, you know what, just lick the inside of your palm, let the saliva dry a little bit and just sniff it, and then you will know whether, you know, you have a bad breath issue or not. But there's one more reason for bad breath, and that is supposed to be in relation with your stomach. And a lot of people go through that. It's a medical condition, and we want you to speak about it as well.
Very true. If you have ulcers or acidity, especially acidity problems, if acid is coming into your mouth a lot, like many people have this issue, gastric issues, then there is a bad breath problem. So, and it also reduces saliva in the mouth, but bad breath is always there. So you should see your GP, like general physician or gastroenterologist, to sort this out.
All right. So here's the thing, Dr. Madhya, since we are talking about bad breath, I think it is absolutely really important for the viewers right now, because it's probably taboo is not the right word, but people who do have this issue are really, really shy, or probably sometimes even ashamed to come up to talk about it. With their friends is one thing, but even to go to the doctor to say, okay, this is the matter, they are kind of shy. I remember one time, so there was a time when my mom was learning, you know, things to do with herbs and, you know, something with the homeopathy, right? So there was a girl who came up to me, random, I don't know her, she used to be one of my neighbors, and asks my mom to make something for her bad breath. To which I'm like, oh, mama, you have to make something, I mean, a medicine, whatever. I don't know, they talked, they did make something, but how come, first of all, let people know that there's no shame in, talking
Yes.
about it, and especially with your doctor, they
Yes,
should.
because-
And number
yeah.
two, is there something at home that they can do probably on a daily basis to fix
Yes,
this?
daily basis. Well, everybody asks this question to
Yeah.
me. The thing is that you can keep your mouth clean. Okay, so the thing is that brush twice daily with a fluoride toothpaste, last thing at night, and one after breakfast. Okay? Another flossing, it helps a lot because it removes all those layers of. I always mention about plaque, and you must be you must have memorized it because it's a thin, sticky yellow film of bacteria that is continuously forming on our teeth every time we eat or drink anything. Okay, so this is the plaque which contains those bacteria which produces those smelly gases, and it is the main cause of dry mouth. So what we as a dentist we can do that we clean the mouth of our patients, and we advise them to check on their diets as well as to keep their mouth clean by brushing twice daily properly in a proper way. And I showed you before
you
as
did.
well how to brush properly and floss every day, and mouthwash once a day. And mouthwash is also, I want to tell the masses that all the mouthwashes, they don't make your breath feel fresh.
Okay.
Because
So what should we
most
be
of the,
looking for in a
mouthwashes who have mint and eucalyptus in it, who are specifically designed for fresh breath. Yeah, for producing fresh
But
breath.
I think that the most important aspect over here is that that you really need to gargle or rinse the mouthwash within your own mouth for at least a minute or 30 seconds as well before you spit it out, because it eventually starts burning and people just spit it out as well. So please make sure that you do it in a proper way.
Yes.
Not just that, what kind of dietary habits can actually lead us towards bad breath?
Yes, dietary habit is a good question. And also about mouthwash, just one more point, that always use a mouthwash at another time of toothbrushing. Don't use always after toothbrushing, because the ingredients in both the things, they cancel out the effects of each other.
Really?
So it's better to use a mouthwash in between the day, and a very neutral kind of a mouthwash which has mint in it. Okay?
No, but this is something which is not very common, and this is for the very first time that I'm actually hearing it out as well, because for all of those dentists we've had on our shows, they say that, okay, once you brush your teeth, just rinse it with mouthwash. You're not supposed to use water.
According to latest guidelines, fluoride is the main ingredient in a toothpaste. Okay, so what you do that after brushing, spit out excess toothpaste from your mouth. Never rinse even with water, because the fluoride content, which should be 1350 to 1500 ppm, you should all check that fluoride content. It should remain in your mouth to absorb in the enamel surface, the outer layer of the tooth, to make them more stronger and make your teeth prevented from the decay. And always use a mouthwash from another time than
brushing your
Every time you go to the washroom, just use it.
Yeah, that makes sense as well.
No,
But
just
Dr.
once a
Madhya,
day
we
is
actually
fine.
just received a question from one of our viewers, and they're asking if the kids' toothpaste, is it safe? I mean, does it make the teeth strong, or does it have all the essential ingredients?
Yes, kids' toothpaste is very good. After 6 years of age, you can use an adult toothpaste on kids after 6 years of age. And always advise your kid to spit out the excess from their mouth and never swallow the
so
toothpaste.
Yeah, they do swallow
It's tasty, and it doesn't have sugar in it. It has sweeteners, very safe sweeteners in it. And always use a very, like an imported toothpaste, I can't take the names. There are many good names available in the markets, and you can buy any of adult toothpaste for a 6-year-old, and always supervise them until the age of 7 to 8.
Got it.
Okay, how to do that.
Got it.
And after that, they are on their own, and always advise them not to, so never swallow a toothpaste, always spit it out.
Okay.
All right, that's wonderful. So one last question towards the end of the show, and it is not in relation with bad breath, but this is something which really needs to do something with your confidence and the way you look, ladies and gentlemen. It's very aesthetic in nature. So a lot of people these days are picking up on getting their teeth scaled, and then making sure that they're polished and they look good as well. But then, just because of this entire teeth scaling thing, what's happening is that there are a lot of myths out there as well. They say, okay, your root's going to become loose. The enamel on your tooth is actually going to wave off, or probably, it won't protect your teeth anymore. You'll have to get it done after every 5 or 6 months.
Yes.
So please guide us.
Yes, calculus actually is the main thing that is forming. It is a very stone-like substance which is adhering to our teeth all the time. So we have to do scaling to remove it. Scaler is ultrasonic scaler. it's a very safe instrument.
Okay.
We just remove that thing, the calculus around the teeth, okay? And yeah, I agree to it that it scratches a little bit of enamel, and teeth can become sensitive for about shorter period of time, because I also have my scaling every 6 months. So they become sensitive for about like 2 to 3 days, and that's fine. So it is a very good procedure. Everybody should have scaling and polishing done regularly. At least if they have a good oral hygiene, they can go for annually, like after a year.
Once a year.
Once a year is fine, okay? So there are all myths that they don't...
and there was a reason why I asked you, and the reason was that, you know, so there was this dentist whom I met, and he was a fresh graduate, and he's opened up his own clinic. He was like, Shahzad bhai, come over to my clinic. I will do your scaling for free. I was like, free is fine. And it makes me feel happy a little bit as well. But whether the treatment needs to be done or not is the question. And yes, finally, I think that I'll be getting it done.
Thing,
because the last time I got done was 6 months around.
You must come to my clinic.
I will, inshallah.
I'll do all the treatment
We
free.
will, because we're going to get the ultrasonic scaling, ladies and gentlemen, this time around.
And Shahzad, about your food, sugar-free diet, and try to have less frequent sugar-free diets, like sugary foods and drinks. The sugary food and drinks should be reduced in your diet, and they should be less frequent, less often. So this is the main thing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Madhiya, for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've definitely taken away something from today's show as well, because every day, whenever we wake up, you know, we come to our office and to this studio with this thinking process or thought process that we really want to bring about a change in your life with the kind of work we do. So we definitely hope that you guys out there are going to keep yourself safe, wear your masks as well, and keep your teeth clean.
Absolutely, and for that matter, keep your diet clean, because that is definitely going to show on your face, in your mouth, everywhere. You are what you eat, right?
Yeah.
So ladies and gentlemen, if you still have any queries or maybe feedback, you can write us on our social media pages. Facebook with the name of?
Well, this morning.
On Twitter.
Well, this morning without a G.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, you will have to look for PTV World, and then the most viewed show on PTV World, ladies and gentlemen, alhamdulillah, happens to be World This Morning.
Yeah, and the repeat of this one you can catch at
5 past midnight. Till the next time, ladies and gentlemen, just look after yourselves and your loved ones as well. Remember us all in your prayers.
Yes.
And we will remember you in our prayers as well. So 1, 2, 3.
Good morning. Keep smiling.